Welcome to The Maintenance Mindset, an audio-video podcast brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm your host, Paul Rhodes, and over the more than 3 decades in the apartment industry, I've had roles that include being on-site, providing services as a vendor, creating and delivering multiple education programs, and active association work. This podcast is centered on the often overlooked role that our on-site maintenance workers play. You know, the men and women that respond in the middle of the night to the toilet call, or the after hours, it's really hot in my apartment request, or my favorite, my ring fell down the drain, get over here now. In other words, the often unsung heroes who are responsible for asset preservation and resident satisfaction. Working in multifamily maintenance provides interesting, sometimes amusing, and often fascinating stories and viewpoints. My encouragement to you is this: whatever you do it with a maintenance mindset. Have you ever looked inside a dishwasher before and wondered how it worked? Well, that was actually the beginning of a conversation with a resident. In that I asked a resident, what do you think this thing is supposed to do? The resident was complaining about the dishwasher that seemingly didn't work. It wasn't drying the dishes, or the glasses that were up top had white spots all over it, or there was always water in the bottom of it. What is this thing supposed to do anyway? I had gotten to know this resident a little bit over time, and I asked him, well, how do you think it works? And he replied back to me, well, it fills up with water, right? All the way from the bottom to the top. Okay, let's pause right there. Have you ever thought about it? How does a dishwasher actually do the things that a dishwasher does? And what exactly are the things that a dishwasher does? I commenced to tell him that, it doesn't fill up all the way bottom to top. And he looked back at me and he says, yes, it does. I mean, look around the door. It's got this rubber seal thing around the door. It's like a submarine door. It fills all the way up with water, right? It was then that I realized that we had a common misunderstanding. And the commonness about it is that a lot of our residents don't know how a dishwasher works. Let's take that one more level. Do we know how a dishwasher works? Because in the eyes of our residents, we're the experts. I know, and you know. I mean, the truth of it is, we know everything there is to know about our property. We know how the dishwasher functions. We know every little thing about every appliance, the washing machine, the dryer, the refrigerator, the oven, the stove, everything, let alone how it's supposed to function in all the various conditions and what everybody does wrong about them, right? Reality is that we have a lot going on. So let's take a little bit of time today and discuss the dishwasher. Although, if we're honest, it would be more accurate to say this thing is a dish rinser, because that's what it does. It sprays water around the inside of the box and rinses the dishes. And by the way it functions, ends up sanitizing them. It also will remove food, though not in the way many of our residents think. Now, let's begin with why somebody would want to use a dishwasher or think about using a dishwasher. And that would be the fact that a dishwasher as a whole and as an appliance is extremely efficient and durable. Now, the efficiency piece, and why I say that, comes from the fact that Energy Star dishwashers, if it's got that rating on it, it will use 4 gallons or less for an entire cycle. Older dishwashers before modern Energy Star ratings were enacted, used anywhere between about 5 to 10 gallons per cycle. Right now, I read lately the on average dishwashers in use today use 6 gallons or less. Now, why is that important? I'll tell you. Many of our kitchen faucets have aerators on them, and that the job of that aerator is to limit the flow of water. We put 2 gallons per minute aerator on the front of our kitchen faucets. And that means that for every minute that that water flows, 2 gallons come out of it. If we're washing dishes in the sink, does it take you longer than 3 minutes to do your dishes? If so, congratulations. You've used more water than your dishwasher. My guess is that's what occurs. Even if you wash dishes by hand every single night in the sink, you will use more water than if you wash those same dishes in the dishwasher every single night. In addition, there's other benefits. Using a dishwasher doesn't use as much hot water, meaning it decreases the amount of energy that's been used to heat up the water. In addition, there's one really big one that some of our residents will find more important than others, and that's pest control. If our residents would put their dishes inside the dishwasher every night, let alone run it every night, that cuts down on the food waste that is found in kitchens, and the dishes that stack up in the sinks are a huge attractant for pests. This all goes together, that if we could convince our residents to use the dishwasher properly, it solves problems before they occur. Now, for us as a maintenance technician, we also have to be aware of when not to use a dishwasher. And really, the two that come to mind in my case are fragile dishware, meaning china or things that are not considered dishwasher safe. Even some items that are considered dishwasher safe can be damaged through the harsh environment that is found inside of a dishwasher. The other thing to realize is that wooden cooking utensils should not be put inside of a dishwasher. Now, the first thing there that comes to mind is like wooden spoons or wooden spatulas. Yes, those shouldn't go in there. But here's one that you might not think of. Wooden handles on knives. Those will split and crack and deteriorate. You see, the reality is, inside of a dishwasher, all of the timings and everything that's supposed to occur is made for either ceramic, glass, or metal cookware. As a side note, this is why residents complain that the plastic is not getting dry. You are now free to agree with them. Yes, they're exactly correct. The plastic is not getting dry. And you know what? Probably never will, because the dishwasher as a device was designed for glass, ceramic, and metal. As a matter of fact, the drying function in a dishwasher requires something heavier or thicker than the plastic containers that we all love to use and reuse, which I'm not opposed to, as long as we understand that they're just not going to get dry in our modern household dishwashers. So to start in our conversation, let's discuss the operating cycles of a dishwasher. When a resident goes and they put dishes into the machine, they put soap in, and then they push the button on top or adjust the knob to make it function and close the door. The first thing that happens is they'll hear the motor come on and drain any liquid that is inside the machine. Now, the reason why this happens is if residents rinse off the dishes before they put them in there, which rinsing is okay. Cleaning dishes before they get put in the dishwasher is actually counterproductive. And we'll talk about that as we progress through what we're going to discuss today. After any sitting water has been drained out from inside the dishwasher, then the fill cycle happens. Often, you'll hear the fill valve activate to where hot water, or at least water from the hot side of the water lines, will enter into the dishwasher. At that point, the motor may change direction or change in intensity. Often, you'll hear a sound change from the dishwasher itself as water begins to fill up and it begins to spray water around inside there. During this portion of the cycle, the heating element will fire. In other words, you'll have 120 volts going through the heating element, which begins to heat up the inside of the machine. As it begins to heat up as a timed event, eventually the soap dish will open up. The soap dish will open up after the water inside has reached its ideal temperature, which in most of the dishwashers that we have, that ideal temperature is not measured. It's a timed event, meaning a certain amount of time occurs. As a matter of fact, the majority of operations that happen inside of a dishwasher are timed. The one thing that's not timed, though, is the fill. There is a float switch on the underside of the machine that you can flip. If you look underneath there, you'll see that little switch attached to a float. Once the dishwasher is full of water, and different than what our resident that we began the story with thinks, there's actually only maybe an inch of water that ever sits on the bottom of the dishwasher. This is why when you open up the door and you look down in the very corners of the front of the dishwasher, you'll see two little seals or gaskets. And as a matter of fact, that's the only part of the door that you would consider to be watertight. That gasket and seal that the resident was talking about around the outside of the door, that's only there to keep splashes from going out the sides of the door. So our machine drains, it fills, it sprays and heats. After that happens for a little while, the soap dish opens up and the soap interacts with the hot water and the hot dishes so that it begins to emulsify. In other words, dissolve fats and proteins that are on the inside of those dishes. And this happens for a timed event. If a normal wash cycle's been selected, it'll be a certain number of time. If heavy duty was selected, this will occur for a longer period of time to give the higher concentration of debris and food and stuff the opportunity to drain. After this happens for as long as it's supposed to, then the machine goes into drain again, and you will hear the motor change in tone back to what it was at the beginning. This is also a timed event, and it will run for longer than what is necessary because the pump wants to remove as much of the water that drips off the dishes as possible. This, for other reasons as well, but this is actually the primary reason why rinse aid is absolutely required in every dishwasher now. You know this because every dishwasher manufacturer now has a rinse aid dispenser built into the door. We'll talk some more about that rinse aid in a little bit. Right now, that pump runs to remove as much of that water out as possible because we want that dirty water to be gone for the next piece of the cycle. The next piece of the cycle is to refill, just like it started before. We take water from the hot side of the faucet and add it into our machine. 2 to 3 or 4 gallons end up going in this part of the cycle, and the machine heats and rinses again, often for a shorter period of time. But the critical moment here is the fact that it continues to heat the inside of our dishwasher. As a matter of fact, that heater will function. The heating element around there will function all the way up until after some period of the second drain. That second drain happens after the rinse has occurred and we remove all the soap and the rest of the dirty water out. Then the pump turns off and the heating element fires for roughly 5 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer, other times a little bit shorter. This is one of the most common mistakes that our residents make. When they hear the pump turn off, they will go in and think that our machine is entering the dry cycle. This is a mistake. Up until this moment, the pump has functioned. It's either been draining or spraying. the inside, rinsing off the dishes. As a matter of fact, what a lot of our residents don't understand is that our dishwasher operates through chemistry and heat. I mean, it's not like there's a little itty bitty man inside the machine that's got a pressure washer that goes over every single dish and cleans it and removes debris that's on there. No, as a matter of fact, it's chemistry that does that. When we come right back after this message, we're going to talk about why rinsing the dishes before you put them in to clean is actually counterproductive. Okay, so we've gone through our dishwasher operation from drain to dry because it starts off with the drain cycle and it ends with the drying cycle, but in the middle is chemistry. And that's why if our resident washes the dishes first, it's counterproductive. And what I mean by that is the soap that is used in the machine is designed to be chemically active through proteins and fat. In other words, in order for the soap to do its job, there has to be both of those items present. If residents clean their dishes completely before they put it into the dishwasher, then really sanitizing is half as effective. That means the chemistry that occurs inside the machine is such that the soap needs to dissolve things. It has to have a chemical reaction. In order for it to have its best sanitizing ability, there needs to be some food present. In addition, they're actually shortcutting the machine. By that, if there is not enough fat or protein present on the dishes, your machine will short cycle. GE, Whirlpool, and Electrolux appliances and all of their subcategories have a small sensor in the pump called a turbidity sensor. Now, turbidity is a scientific word that just means cloudy. And what it does is it shines a light through the water and measures how cloudy the water is. The water gets cloudy by the soap interacting with fats and protein. If there are no fats and proteins present, then the turbidity sensor doesn't sense cloudiness. And if it doesn't sense cloudiness, the turbidity sensor will cause the timer to advance to the next stage, possibly before the temperature has been reached inside the machine. Again, there's not a temperature sensor in the majority of the machines that our residents interact with. It's a timer function. But that timer, due to energy efficiency standards, has a turbidity sensor that will speed it up if there is no dirt, food found in the machine. And the reason why it's important that we don't speed it up is because sanitizing relies on temperature. And the temperature relies on not only the air temperature, but also the temperature of the dishes. You see, that's why there is a soap dish cover. The cover doesn't release the soap into the machine until the temperature of the water and the dishes gets above a certain point. That certain point is roughly 120 to 130 degrees. The reason why that's critical is what's the temperature of the hot water coming out of your faucet? At hottest level, really, it shouldn't be any hotter than 120. Maximum per International Plumbing Code, if I remember correctly, is 128 degrees. That's why we undershoot it. Your spa is 105 degrees. That's swimming pool code. But here's the problem. The dishes that are put into the dishwashing machine, let alone the entire inside of the tub, is less than 120 degrees. And that means that the water that's coming out into your machine will be less than 120, let alone for the fact that we're dealing with a device that in its entire operation, it uses no more than 6 gallons on average. So let's think about it. We need for the dishes and the water inside the machine to be above 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And yet, the water coming out will be a maximum of above 120 degrees Fahrenheit. And as a matter of fact, chances are it's even less than that. I mean, think about it. Your dishwasher is found where? That's right, in the kitchen. Where's the water heater? Generally speaking, it's not anywhere nearby. You've got 10, 20, 30, 35, 40 feet of pipe in between where the water heater is and your kitchen area where the dishwasher is. Not only that, if you turn on your machine for the fill cycle, 3 gallons on average are going to come out. How long does it take for you to run the kitchen faucet for hot water to come out? If we run the dishwasher without bringing hot water to our kitchen faucet, do we actually have hot water going into the machine? No, we don't. This is why modern machines have a heater in them that runs longer than what would be necessary. And there's a high limit on them to make sure that they don't fire too long in order to melt things down. But at the end of the day, we're dealing with a machine that uses heat. The heat that we need to have is the air inside our dishwasher. In order to sanitize, that air needs to achieve 165 degrees. Why 165 degrees, you ask, in a machine that doesn't even have a thermometer? I'll give you an answer. The reason why is the same reason why when we read menus at restaurants, it says that little asterisk by some of the meals that particularly like steak or red meat, and that says undercooked meat or undercooked food items can cause illness. And that's because at 165 degrees Fahrenheit, 99.7% of all known germs, bacteria, viruses, and other things that can cause problems for us are dead. That's the sanitizing feature. And we need the air inside the machine to get up above 165 degrees. If our machine has cold water going into it, and then our resident has pre-washed the dishes before putting them into the dishwasher, and the turbidity sensor tells that timer to go fast, it's possible that the temperature of the steam inside the dishwasher, that hot, moist air, will not achieve 165 degrees. And that means we have now compromised the sanitization of this device, which truly does a great job of sanitizing. So we run through that operation. This is chemistry. It needs that soap to be included. But how much? Do me a favor the next time you go to the grocery store. Look at all the dish soaps that are offered. And we're not going to talk about brand names. But I want you to pick up one of the dish soap boxes or bottles that has the dish soap in that container as a whole. And then pick up the same brand name of the ones that have the little itty bitty individual use items. They're wrapped in melting what looks like plastic. Look at the ingredients. You'll notice something. It's the exact same. And yet, manufacturers, testing labs have proven that the ones that are in the little itty bitty sachet type containers are actually better at washing dishes than the ones in the bottle or the box. The answer is dosing. The ones that are in the little itty bitty containers, those are already pre-dosed. The ones in the bottle or the box, the powder or liquid, it doesn't really matter. Those you or the user decides how much to use. Do me a favor. If you're listening to this podcast on a mobile device, go into your kitchen and take a look at your dishwasher if you happen to have one. If not, the next time you're around it, take a look at your dishwasher. Look inside that soap dish. Chances are there's actually a line that's halfway up the little dish underneath the lid. You know what that line is? That's the fill line. That's the amount of dishwashing detergent that we are supposed to be using in our machine. And yet, we live by duct tape rules. Don't know what duct tape rules are? Chances are you've heard this before. Matter of fact, you finished this statement. The statement is, if a little's good, yes, you got it. A lot's better. We tend to think that dish soap is that way as well. That means I see that line a little bit, but you know what? I know better than who made this dishwashing machine. I will fill this all the way up. Matter of fact, so much that I have to actually brush some of the powder or move some of the liquid is going to squirt out when I put the lid down. It doesn't work that way. As a matter of fact, in order for the fats and proteins to dissolve properly inside the dishwashing machine, there has to be enough water to rinse it around inside the box. So follow the instructions. Yes, go back to RTFI. Read the full instructions on there. Some dishwashers actually include a secondary cup that is uncovered. Remember why the cover was there? To make sure that the temperature inside the machine of the dishes reached a level enough so the soap was active when it came in contact with the dishes. But that other little itty-bitty cup that is uncovered, it's there so that during the pre-rinse, it's not exactly chemically active. There, the little grit or sand found inside the soap would begin to do its work. It would, in effect, sandblast the food and particles that stuck on the dishes, even before the chemicals begin to work. So I guess then washing does actually occur in the rinsing function. End result, that soap is designed to work a specific way, which actually that probably brings us to the point of one of the most irritating work orders that a maintenance technician can have. Have you ever had this one? I've got suds coming out of my machine. What causes that? The answer is our residents put the wrong soap in the dishwasher. Sink soap is designed to foam. I mean, look at the commercials you've seen either online or on television in the middle of shows. They make a benefit of that sink soap to be the bubbles. I mean, one brand bubbles more than the other brand bubbles because bubbles are what it's all about. Well, not so in dishwashing machines. As a matter of fact, where the machine is concerned, that soap is specifically designed to not bubble. It is possible that for our residents, maybe some of the sink soap ended up inside the machine. However, in most cases, residents have not have decided that they don't want to use dish soap for whatever reason. Maybe they ran out. Maybe they didn't go to the store. Maybe they didn't have their brand. Whatever the reasoning is, dishwashing machine soap will not bubble. By the way, little side note, you know, this never ever happens on the ground floor. The dishwasher overflowing always happens upstairs, which means not only do we have to deal with the apartment there, but we also have to deal with the apartment downstairs as well. So here's the thing. Get rid of the bubble, get rid of the foam, and then go downstairs. If you have a dishwasher that overflowed, even on a vinyl floor, if it's sheet vinyl, yes, as long as that sheet vinyl is in good shape, the water isn't going to go through the vinyl. Remember, though, that underneath the dishwasher and often underneath the stove are not fully, meaning it's a quite frequent occurrence that underneath the dishwasher, you have open subfloor. Water's going to go downstairs. Your neighbors down below will love the upstairs neighbor for it. So how do you get rid of the foam? Well, there's a couple of different ways. Easy way, if your particular apartment community has a sink sprayer and that sink sprayer is close enough to the dishwasher that you can spray cold water inside the machine, do that. Spray cold water, follow the instructions on your particular dishwasher to cycle. Start the machine until it runs, the drain runs out. Remember the very first operation of your dishwasher was the drain cycle. So you fill it up with cold water, run the machine, then stop the machine, reset it, fill it up with cold water, run the machine, let it drain, then keep doing that. Alternatively, I have had great success using, okay, this is a secret. Don't tell anyone, all right? Just between you and me. Non-dairy coffee creamer. That's right. Powdered cow. The cheap stuff. Take about a tablespoon of it, throw it into the machine, close the door, and let it run. Hit go. Do not follow the use of some YouTube videos or other advice. Don't use fabric softener, spa defoamer, even carpet cleaning defoamer. Yes, they will get rid of the bubbles and operate. The only problem is one of the active ingredients in those other alternatives is poisonous. And remember, we're dealing with a device where dishes and things that our residents are going to use to eat off of goes into. So that's why I'm a fan of the non-dairy coffee creamer. It's food. It's edible. You can do the same thing with olive oil or corn oil or other oils. Will help to knock it down. My favorite is actually the non-dairy creamer. If a resident ever sees you doing this, though, do yourself a favor and don't tell the resident what it is. Just let them know it's dishwasher defoamer. That works good. Again, remember, it's just between us. Don't tell anybody. This is top secret. So our dishwasher, it operates through chemistry and heating. Now, that mistake that we talked about early on, back before our break, that mistake that our resident makes, I can kind of understand. They're energy conscious. On the face of the dishwasher, many controls give the option for air dry. It is out of concern for environmental or for energy efficiency that residents will select air dry, and they listen from the other room until the pump stops operating. Once it stops operating, in their mind, they think, the dishwasher cycle is done. I'm going to go open it up and it will dry without using the heating element, which means less energy. No, if our resident opens it up right after the pump stops, all they're doing is not sanitizing the dishes. Sanitizing occurs for roughly the 5 minutes after the pump stops functioning. If our resident has selected air dry, the timer will turn off the heating element, but the timer will continue to function all the way until the end of its cycle. And then our resident should open up the dishwasher. This is particularly important when the dishwashing machine has a metal tub. The reason why is that metal tub will cool off faster than a plastic one. And it is the temperature difference of the metal tub to the dishes inside the machine that pulls moisture off the dishes. Moisture will condense on the metal tub enclosure. And as that moisture condenses, it is in effect being pulled off the dishes, provided that rinse aid was used. Remember when we talked about that or mentioned that in the beginning? Plastic tubs. The plastic tub that goes around, you will have in newer units that have a plastic tub, their manufacturers are actually putting a small ventilation fan where it will open up a little vent and blow air out of there which pulls fresh air in through the gasket, through the seal, through the non-waterproof area, and that will aid in drying. But both cases, whether it's a metal tub or a plastic tub, rely on that rinse aid drying agent. And the reason why is, again, chemistry. The rinse aid is a chemical that it decreases the surface tension of the water, which what that means is instead of the water building up on the surface of something into a large bubble of water, it in essence allows the water to be flat. In other words, less water sticks to the surface of the dishes. More water falls off, drops out, down into the drain, which that is why back when we were talking about the soaping cycle, that chemistry allows the chemical to mix better with the fats and proteins that are on the dishes. During the drying cycle, more water is rinsed off, and because there's less surface tension to that water, the water will actually evaporate faster, especially when the tub is cooler than the dishes. This is why your machine is not designed for plastic. Plastic, whether it's the tub or the dishes that we put in there, cool down too fast. It decreases the quantity of water that is evaporated off. Yes, rinse aid will help, but your dishes, if they're plastic, still are going to hold and contain moisture. A lot more moisture than what the glass, ceramic, or metal dishes will. As a matter of fact, if there's more plastic dishes, cups, or the little tubs of ware that we end up having in there in your machine than there is the other material dishes, ceramic, glass, or metal, it will decrease the overall ability for your machine to dry. And in the end, isn't that what we want? We want the dishes to be clean and dry. That's what our residents want. Without this knowledge, a lot of our residents are going to go back to using the sink because they can see it, they can feel it, they know that it's been scrubbed off. But in the end, the sink will never, ever be as efficient. More water is going to be used. Effective, because no matter how hard you scrub microscopically in your dishes, there's going to be germs that are left over because of the dish towel, the sponge, the scrubby thing, or whatever it is that you use. The last piece of that, though, is they will never, ever, ever be as sanitized as they are in the dishwashing machine. Because after all, the water that goes into that machine will never, ever be 165 degrees. That means if there is any germs left, they're left. They will live. And that can make you or I sick. I hope you've enjoyed our discussion today on dish rinsers and how to make them work better. With this information, have a talk with your resident. Let them know that they can actually use less water by operating the dishwasher, even if they operate it every single day. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you somewhere.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Maintenance Mindset. I hope you take away ideas that apply to your current and future career goals. Please check out Maintenance Mindset Minute to hear short-form, high-impact, applicable, maintenance-centered information. Whatever you do today, do it with a maintenance mindset. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. Visit multifamilymedianetwork.com to learn more about our other industry podcasts, thought pieces, and sponsorship opportunities. I'll see you somewhere.